From the Book of Ecclesiastes. Hear what God's Spirit is saying to you. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. Here ends the reading of words that give us insight on God. May God grant us wisdom and courage for interpretation.
We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in God's holy word. He's never failed. So I said, oh, right, put your hands together. Well, we've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord every day. I'm trusting in God's holy word, 'cause God's never failed. Yeah, so somebody say, oh, 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 I can't turn around. We've come this far. We've come this far. We've come this far.
Well, I normally get to sit down now, but I'm going to preach today, so we'll keep going. So I was at the piano when Pastor started communion, and I wasn't looking because I was looking at the music, and I heard him say, well, it's nice today to be surrounded up here by exes, and I was like, who dated who? I didn't know this. And then he said, oh, so I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I really was confused for a minute. So good to be here, and my baby daughter is here, Gracie. I love you. Some of you will remember when Gracie and I sang a duet at MCC. 2 of them. She didn't want to do it again today. Part of your world. I have 5 kids, I don't know if you knew that, and I was thinking, speaking of kids, I heard this story. These parents had 2 kids, and if you've had kids, they were twins, but kids in the family are just as different as can be. And these 2 kids, they were twins, but Johnny and Jimmy, one was like just the worst pessimist, never saw the good in anything. And his brother, though, was just the optimist, never saw bad in anything. And the parents were like, we kind of have to temper both of these a little bit to be prepared for the world. So they had an idea, and the boys came home one day after school, and they're like, all right, boys, go to your separate rooms. We have something there for you. And they opened them for Johnny, who was the pessimist. And literally, the room was full, like 6 feet with just candy. All his favorite, every kind of candy he liked. And they shoved him in, and they said, well, get back in about half an hour. Have fun. And they shut the door. Well, now his brother can't wait to see what is in his room. So they go down there, and they open the room, the optimist said, in it is literally a 6-foot pile of manure. I know, right? I didn't do this. Some of the parent. And they put him in, and they shut the door. They said, we'll be back. So they went, the kitchen down and waited, watched the clock. So after 30 minutes, they're like, well, this should have had some kind of a effect. So they go in, and they open the room, and all the candy, and there he is, sitting on the pile, just weeping. And they're like, what is the matter? If I eat all this, I'm going to get cavities, and I won't have any teeth left. And it just went on and on. They just shut the door. They're like, well, it should have worked a little better for his brother. So they open his door, and at first they don't see him. Where is he? And then they see on the top of the pile, like, manure flying out of a hole. And he's found some kind of a bucket and a shovel, and he's just digging in this stuff. And they're like, well, what are you doing? And he looked up dirt, and he said, I know if there's this much manure, there's probably a pony at the bottom of this thing. I want to be a little more like him in my life. This scripture Janet read today, there's a time and a season for everything. And there are seasons that are manure in our lives, and there are seasons that are candy. And I guess as a Christian, it's how do we face those? How do we bring Christ and grace into all those situations of our life? I want to tell you a story today, and I'm just going to tell the story, and then at the end I'll bring out a couple points that you probably will have already seen by then, but it's one of my favorite. It's tucked away in the middle of our Old Testament. This is actually a library of a lot of different kind of books, and there's a little, not a long one, of a lady named Esther. Why Hollywood has not made an epic film about this, I don't know, because it genuinely is an amazing story. It has intrigue and treason and death and love and beauty pageants. And it does. It has all kinds of good stuff. So before I start, let me give you the setting. You know, Moses led the children out. They had Israel. You had King David who slew Goliath. Well, that's all in the past. Israel had kind of fallen into just some bad times. And finally, a king named Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians came in and just wiped out Israel. They just tore down the temple, destroyed houses, killed most of the people unless you were young and healthy or pretty, and they drugged them 800 miles across the desert to what is now today Iraq. And they were exiles living out of their land. Years turned into decades, and over those, the Babylonians fell to the Persians and the Medes, and that's where we take off today. There's a king Xerxes, and he's over that huge empire that is all that Middle East Levant today. And there are these exiles still living in their land. They've not returned to Israel. They will eventually, to let you know, they will come back, but not yet. They are on the wrong side of the tracks. They are not a liked people, unlike many of the other peoples that would come and assimilate into the culture of the Persians and the Medes. The Jews did not. They kept to their religion, and they kept to themselves, believing that one day God would bring them back. And thus, we start this story. Curtains up. What happens, Xerxes is throwing a party. Now, they knew how to throw parties in these days because it didn't go on for a night. It went on for weeks. So he has all his nobility and all the wealthy people, and they have been partying for days and days and days. Meanwhile, his wife, the queen, Vashti, she was throwing a party in a separate part of the palace grounds for the women. They've been going to. Xerxes is drunk, and he says, somebody go get Vashti and tell her to come in this room with us. So they go and they're like, Vashti, excuse me, the king, your husband, would like your presence at the party. She's like, it's been how many days they've been drinking? I am not going in there. What should we tell your husband? Tell him I'm not coming. They go back and they say, Xerxes, where is she? Bring her in here. She's not coming. Everyone went quiet. What are we going to do? And so they decide, well, he didn't want to kill her, but she's gone, banished, not going to be the queen anymore. Good thing she survived it. Well, now we need a new queen. So what are we going to do? Let's have a beauty pageant. Ta-da! And they do. They throw a beauty pageant. They announce the king is going to choose a new wife. So bring your youngest, you're not the youngest, bring your beautiful maidens. And they came by the droves. And so the Bible says they lived on the palace grounds in a separate place for a matter of months while they were prepared, I guess taught manners, taught whatever, how to cook, best oils to use on their skin and their hair, and just make sure they were ready. At the end of this time, it's time to go meet the king. Now they do their beauty pageants, I want to say differently than we do today. I'm not totally sure about that, but because they would go one at a time, it's kind of PG, and they would sleep with the king that night. And then the king in the morning had to decide, do I want to see you again or bye-bye? And there was a lot of bye-byes. Esther comes. Now, Esther was a Jewess. They did not tell that. Esther didn't have a mom or dad. She had been orphaned early in life and had been raised by her uncle, Mordecai. And Mordecai is the one that had encouraged her to join this, but he did say, I wouldn't tell anything about your people or who you are because there's a lot of racism in this. So she didn't tell. She prepares her diet to go in with the king, and in the next morning, he's like, girl, I want to see you again. She's like, yes. And she became the queen. She won the beauty contest. She is now the queen of basically the earth because they're the most powerful nation at this time on the earth. So, starts her reign. Now, no one knows except for Mordecai that she's a Jew. Well, Mordecai sits outside every day of the palace grounds. So if you come into the king's gate, men would always gather there to hear business, gossip, whatever they do. Well, he was always there. And he heard one day some men talking about a plot to kill the king. So he got a hold somehow of Esther and said, Esther, because they didn't know it was her uncle, you got to tell your husband, there's a plot out. Here's their names. I wrote it down for you. They need to do something. He's going to be killed. Investigated it, found out it was true. So they executed those men, and the king life lived another day. Story keeps going. We meet now a sinister man. His name is Haman. Haman was second in charge. Haman had come up through the ranks and was right next to the king, had lofty ideas of what he wanted to be and where he wanted to go. But something bugs Haman. Every morning when he reports for work with his haughty and pompous self, all the people just bow to him and show all this honor because they know he's the second in command, except for Mordecai, the Jew. In his religion, he was not going to bow and worship a man. So he'd be polite, good morning. But it just incensed Haman. Does he not know who I am, who I will be? And it would just tick him off every morning as he started his job. So one day he's like, I'm going to get rid of him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of the whole bunch of them, all the Jews. And he came up with a plan. So he goes to the king one day and hey, people in the land are talking on about my life. I have an idea. Just you need to worry about it. Give me a ring. I'm going to decree we'll get rid of it. Things like mine, which you do. So Haman makes a decree that all the Jews on a certain going to be killed by the neighbors. The police don't even have to be involved. The law literally is this. On this certain day, if you live next door to Jews, you can go into their homes and you can kill them and you can take all their stuff and it's yours. Wow, not a good day in the Persians and the Medes if you're a Jew. Mordecai gets a word back to Esther and he says, Esther, you got to do something. I don't know if you know, living up there in your beautiful palace, but the Jews are going to be executed coming up here pretty shortly. She heard about the plan. She said, well, what am I supposed to do? He said, well, you need to talk to your husband about this. She said, but uncle, I don't know if you understand how it works in the palace. If anyone approaches the king without being summoned, they are executed. I can't just walk in, even though I'm his wife, and be like, hey, honey, I got something to talk with you tonight. He's like, well, you need to figure it out. I don't know. And I love what Mordecai says. He says, you need to just get some perspective, girl. He didn't say it like this, but he said, this ain't all about you. This ain't all about your pretty hair and your looks. You are here at this point in history for this time and this purpose. I don't know if she thought about it that way before. The Bible says like this, you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. This is your moment. This is why you are here. And she goes and she thinks about it for a couple days and she decides, okay, I'm going to talk to my husband. It might cost me my life, but I have to try. Let's go back outside. Mordecai's out there. Here comes Haman. It's another day. Mordecai, hello, sir. Doesn't bow. But this time, Haman snickers. Like, you're not going to be alive much longer. And he walks in, and he decides what to do. He leaves work that day, and he builds gallows to hang him. Tomorrow, he's going to hang this man for being insubordinate to him. Well, something happens that day. The queen is going to go before the king. But whew, a lot writing on this. And so I love how she does it. She knows her man, she knows men. She gets it dolled up in his best dress that he loves and puts her makeup on, does her hair. And then she has them make sure they leave the doors open where he's inside working on the throne. And she just hangs out in the lobby all day. What do they call the vestibule? And she just passes and he doesn't see her. So she like turns around, she does it again. He doesn't see her. I don't know how many hours. She just said, Finally, he looks up. He's like, Esther, is that you? I don't know where he got a British accent all of a sudden, but he did. I said, yeah, babe, I'm just out here walking the palace grounds. Come on in here, baby. And so she comes in. Okay, it's going well. So she comes up and she said, honey, you look so good. What do you want? I'll give you up to half the kingdom. Just stay with me. What do you want? She's like, well, I actually would like something. Name it. It's yours. I'd like you to come tonight to my residence, and I'm going to make you a home-cooked dinner. Oh, yes. This is how his day is going to end. And he said, oh, one other thing. Bring Haman. I know he's your right-hand man, your best friend. Bring him with you to the dinner. Well, you can imagine what Haman heard. He's building the gallows. He's going to kill Mordecai. He gets to go tonight and have dinner with the king and the queen in the private residence. Yes. And so they go to dinner. And at the dinner, the king is, eating up and drinking up. He says, come on, girl, you got something. What is this? What are you trying to do? I know you want something. And she's like, you know what? I'd like to do this again tomorrow night. Can we do that? Come back tomorrow, both of you, and I'll make another dinner. Sure, we're not going to complain. And so she goes to her residence. Haman goes home knowing, man, this is it. This is what he waited all his life for. He's going to be the second in command. He's in good with the king and the queen. He's going to kill the Jews and Mordecai. This is it. The king can't sleep that night, the Bible says, and so he's rolling around and he just can't get to sleep. And early in the morning, since he's suffering from insomnia, he tells the people, hey, bring in the book, where you write down all the current events and our history and just read to me. Kind of like a newspaper, I guess, in those days. So they started reading to him all the things that have gone on in the kingdom. And they get to this part about 2 people executed because of a plot to kill the king. His life was spared. This guy named Mordecai had told the story. And he said, hey, you guys, who is this? He's just some cat that hangs out at the gate every day, Your Honor. Well, what did we do for him? I mean, he saved my life. Book doesn't apparently we did anything for him. He's like, well, we have to show him honor or reward him as he is thinking about this. Guess who shows up for work? Here comes Haman, his pompous self. This is going to be a great day. He said, Haman, come here quick. Before we get started, I have a question for you. If there was a man in my kingdom that the king wanted to honor, Haman's like, oh, he's talking about me. What should I do? What would you do if you were me to honor this man? Well, king, I'm not one to say, but I mean, take your best horse, take your robe, your royal robe, put it on him, and put him up on the horse and just parade him all through town and have people saying, this is the man who the king honors. That's what I would do if it was, I mean, it's not me, is it? But that's what I would do. And he cannot believe the next words that tumble out of the king's mouth. The king says, great, I want you to honor this man. His name is Mordecai. I don't know if you know him, but he hangs out at the king's gate every day. Right. I would have loved to see Haman's face right then. Oh, he's going to show a better face later tonight, but you'll see about that. So he has to go out. Haman has to go out, put the robe on Mordecai, put him on the horse, and lead him around town. People, you got to be careful what you sow because you will reap. When he gets home that night, tells his wife what happened, she's like, this is not good. He didn't have time to think about it. I got to get ready. I got to go to the king's house. So they go. We're getting near the end of the story. He shows up at the queen's private place, and the king is already there, and they have another sumptuous dinner. She has made everything that the king likes. His favorite, I don't know what it was, banana pudding. That would be my party. And they eat, and finally at the end of the night, he's like, come on, baby. Don't make a suspense. What is it you want? I know you well enough to know you're trying to get something. And she said, well, there is something I would like, hon. What is it? Up to half the kingdom. And suddenly a look takes over her face he has never seen from this wife before. A seriousness, a set to her mouth, a determination in her eyes. And she says, I would like you to spare my life. What are you talking about? He is going to kill me, and he's going to kill every family member and every one of my people. The king jumps up from the table. What are you talking about? Who is this? And she puts that acrylic nail. And she points to Haman, who I don't even got it yet. And she said, that is him. He wants to kill me and all my people. The king is just beside, didn't even know hadn't even put it all together yet. He yells out, and Haman now is just shocked, can't even move. And the king, as he's cursing and moving, just mutters and he heads out to the patio for a minute to absorb all this. He realizes what's going on. Esther's work is done. She takes off her jewelry, and she goes and lays down on the couch. Done. God has the rest of it. Well, she didn't say that, but you'll see why in a minute. Well, Haman all of a sudden wakes up from his stupor and jumps over and says, Queen, please, I beg of your life. I didn't know you were a Jew. And he's going, and she's not even paying him any mind. He is begging. He is up off his feet now. He is trying to get her attention. He climbs up on the couch, and he's grabbing her. Right? Who comes in? The king comes back in as he sees Haman on top of his wife on the couch, shaking her. That's the end of that story right there, because he has a hood put over his head, and he is drug out and executed immediately. The next day, they can't change the law. Apparently, the Persians and the Medes, you couldn't change the law once it had been stamped. That's why we have that phrase, today, the law of the, does anyone use that? The law of the Persians and the Medes? I do. But they did this. They made another edict that on that same day that they could go in and attack the Jews could fight back and take their neighbor's stuff. It was a truce. It was a stalemate. No one was going to do it. Now they could all fight and grab each other's stuff. And the Jews were saved. And that story ends. It's a powerful story. It's a story that I've known since childhood, that there are so many lessons we could draw. But I just want to have a couple as we leave today to think about. The first one as I look at that story is this: that your past does not have to dictate your future. Amen? If you look at what Esther, her name actually was Hadassah in Hebrew, she had nothing going for her. She had lost both parents. She was living under a racist ideology. They were on the wrong side of the tracks. Nothing going for her. She's a woman back in those days and had no rights. She had nothing that you would have guessed would lead her to where she was. And when I looked at that story, I think about our lives, and some of us have known bereavement, and some of us have known loss, and some of us didn't have an education that others had, and some of us have lost spouses, and all of that. And it can be easy for us to think, well, then I can't do anything great. I don't know if I could do. No, you can.
Your past does not have to dictate what you let God do in your life. In fact, God specializes in taking little Davids and sending them to Goliaths, of little Esthers sending them into the palace, of little insignificant people to say, go change your world. Because you know why? With all that mess behind you, when you do something great, you can't take the credit for that. They will have to know God has done something in your life. Oh, gotta hurry up. Second point. Second point is for you to realize when an opportunity comes your way, if you have the time, the resources, or whatever it takes to fill that, you need to do it. It's easy to think that your money and your time and your family and your resources and your talents are yours. They are a gift on loan. And if God has put you in a place at such a time when an opportunity comes for you to get involved and do something, it's your time. It's your moment. That's why you're there. That's why God gave those things to you. That's why you have that time. That's why you have that extra cash. That's why you have those abilities. Go and run for the opportunity. Watch what God will do. The last thing I see in this story, and has always been the most powerful to me, is that in this whole story, I mistakenly said his name once, this is the only book in the Bible where God is never even mentioned. The word's not even there. Ain't no Jesus, ain't no God, none of it. In fact, many people think it shouldn't be in there because it seems like a secular book and a secular story. This is my last point. In those times in your life when you don't think God is there because you can't see God's grace, you can't feel anything, that's the very moment God is closest to you. It's easy when life gets hard to think, God, I've been to church for so many years, I did so many things, now where are you? You'll look back someday and you will see the hand of God. Almost 20 years ago, I was a preacher, 5 kids, had a nice big house in Texas, ended up coming out, lost everything. Those years were hard. My kids crawling under a conference table we'd break into an office at night to sleep because we were homeless when they were with me, down on 11th and Park with corrugated metal door in a storage unit I slept in for many, many months. And I remember one day going across the bridge there on the 805, and I was done. I just remember I was crying, and I said, God, all my life I've served you so well. I did everything I could. I have loved you. I have preached. I have sung. I have given my life. Where are you? And I said, God, I know I shouldn't ask this in my theology, but if you are real, give me a sign. I literally prayed that. I said it out loud as I was crossing. And I waited, finished the bridge. No thunderbolts, no lightning, nothing. And I do remember from that day on, for quite a while after, when people would say, do you still believe in God? I'd say, well, I'll say this. If there is a God, I don't think he or she cares much about me. Because that's how I felt. Oh, how blind was I? Because as the months turned into years and I look back at those years, I could tell a whole different story. Yes, I was hurting. Yes, but I hadn't gone to this church. I didn't even know these people. They were letting me sleep on their floors with my kids. They were feeding us. When I got a little one-bedroom apartment, these church folk that I didn't even know brought me my beds, all my linens, walked with me through all of that. I didn't lose my mind. My kids made it out of it. Yeah, God wasn't like dancing on my windshield. Hey, I'm here for you. But once I got through that pain, I could look back. God was so close to me and so good to me in those years. Held me when I needed to be held. Encouraged me to make one more day when I did not know if I could. My friends, you may go through some dark valleys, but don't you let that doubt cloud enter your mind. God is there. When you cry at night, God is there. When you don't know what to do, God is there. When everyone else has left you and not answering their phone, God is there. Whether you feel it or not, know that God will never leave you nor forsake you. Amen. May it be so.